guys, it's me again, and here we go with the island of Montserrat, as the island was discovered by our good old friend Christopher Columbus in 1493, and named after a Castilian monastery of Santa Maria de Montserrat, as the Spanish made no effort to take over the island, and it was left to Irishmen from St. Kitts, 50 miles to the north, to colonise the island in 1632, and mainly because it was suggested that it would be safe haven from Protestant intolerance. As soon more Irish from Virginia joined the settlers, as they were followed by yet more Irish settlers from Ireland itself. By 1648, there was 1,000 white families on the island, the vast majority of whom had a connection to Ireland, as it was reported that the island was almost an Irish colony, and slaves began to be imported in the latter half of the 17th century, mostly from West Africa, as small holding farms were replaced by larger plantations that produced sugar, rum and arrowroot. From this point, the majority of new Irish came to Ireland tended to be indentured servants, as there was a particularly large influx during the Cromwellian conquest of Ireland in the 1650s. In 1666, the French force took over the island, but left it again later the same year on the terms defined by the Treaty of Breda. In 1712, the French returned to the island once more to attack the island, but this time the numbers of settlers, believed to be about 5,000, and slaves were large enough to organise an effective defence of the island. As the French returned yet again in 1782 during the American Revolutionary Wars, and this time succeeded in occupying the island, but under the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, Montserrat was turned to British control, as a fourth French attack occurred during the Napoleonic Wars in 1805, but left upon receipt of a ransom paid by the local population. In 1763, a slave rebellion was held on St. Patrick's Day, as it felt that many of the settlers would be distracted by the festivities. An indentured white servant overheard the plans and alerted the authorities, as 9 slaves were identified as ringleaders and were promptly executed, as further 30 were imprisoned or banished to other islands. And despite its failure, the story caught the imagination of later generations of Montserrat, and who decided to celebrate St. Patrick's Day as a national holiday. In a happy coincidence, those of Irish descent chose to see the celebrations as commemorating the Irish heritage of the island, and it also appealed to tourists from around the world who were familiar with the 17th of March Martyrs' Day, as the 19th century saw a steady decline of the sugar industry, as the abolition of slavery in 1833, and in 1857 the British philanthropist and Quaker Joseph Sturge brought a sugar estate in the island as a part of his campaign to support free slaves, as the numerous members of the Sturge family bought additional land. In 1869, a family established the Montserrat Company Limited and planted lime trees, started the commercial production of lime juice, and set up a school and sold parcels of land to the inhabitants of the island. As the era of plantation was replaced by corporations and smallholders as the 19th century progressed, as the cotton was introduced in 1909 and as another possible staple crop, although its production struggled. In 1871 to 1915, Montserrat was administered as a part of the federal crown colony of the British Leeward Islands, and in 1958 it was joined by a short-lived West Indies Federation, and when it was dissolved it became a crown colony again in 1962, as Montserrat was badly affected by the 1989 Hurricane Hugh, and it damaged nearly all structures in the islands and set back the tourist industry considerably. In 1995 saw an even more cataclysmic event, the eruption of the Montserrat Hills volcano, and this buried the island's capital of Plymouth and made much of the south of the island uninhabitable, and over half the population of the island left. And in recognition of the disaster, the people of Montserrat were granted full residency rights in the United Kingdom, allowing them to migrate if they choose, and as they did, were granted British citizenship in 2002, as the large space of the south of Ireland are still restricted as an exclusion zone, although the north of Ireland is largely free of volcanic activity. Staying on the volcanic eruption, as the Montserrat Hills volcanic eruption is an inescapably part of Montserrat these days and is radically altered life on the Caribbean island. As before the eruption, Montserrat was almost unknown to the world, but to authors like Nancy Burke and Doreen S. O'Garrow have managed to share the history with the rest of the world. As the Caribbean island of Montserrat is a British overseas territory of part of the Lesser Antilles, it is named the Emerald Isle of Caribbean because of its resemblance to coastal island, and because of the Irish roots of some more white people, as the British gained possession of the island in 1783, and in the 19th century the island's sugar plantation economy gained possession of the island and turned it to small land holdings. And on July 18th, 1995, the fate of the island was dramatically altered when it was devastated by eruption of a previously dormant Montserrat Hills volcano, as the eruption buried the island's capital of Plymouth and destroyed transportation facilities and caused 2/3 of the Montserrat population to flee because of the resulting economic turmoil and lack of safe living conditions. As the dangerous volcanic activity has left the southern part of the island a restricted space, and is now an exclusion zone that is monitored by the Montserrat Volcano Observatory. As Nancy Burke was the first author to publish a non-fiction title in the Macmillan Caribbean Writers series, as a New York-born writer and dancer worked with her musical husband on a cruise ship that sailed the Caribbean circuit, as both deciding to move to Montserrat in 1992, as they soon experienced hurricanes and tremors that were commonplace on the island. And in 1995 they were present for the eruption of the Montserrat Hills volcano. And in 2003 Burke published a book, and the Siren Still Whale, an account depicting the 4 years they tried to live on the island with the volcano after it erupted, as they dealt with initial explosions and pyroclastic flows and hurtling hot rocks onto their roof. But they were eventually forced to move was the ash that covered everything that had been swept up every single day. As another author who shares the story of the volcano is Doreen S. O'Garrow. Born in Montserrat, her family soon migrated to St. Kitts, where they lived for 8 years before returning to their home on Montserrat. After finishing middle school there, like many other on Montserrat, moved to New York, where she finished high school and taught in New York City public school for around 30 years, as O'Garrow retired the same year as the Montserrat Hills eruption, as her home village of Kinsale was completely destroyed, and stated that it was this destruction that launched her into writing. And in her first 2 books, Montserrat in My Mind and Montserrat in the Heart of the Caribbean, America and England, she wrote about the volcano and the country's rich Afro-Irish, British history, culture and cuisine and comedy, as she felt that the sharing of this with the rest of the world was extremely important for her. And speaking of the homeland, whenever she got the chance, and dedicating her work to the preservation of the culture in Montserrat, which has been dramatically erased by the eruption, as other books by O'Garrow include Tales of Montserrat and Miss Tilly. And yeah, that is Montserrat for you. So yeah, bye for now, and I'll see you soon.